Hello, everyone. Thank you so much again for joining. We're here to speak about journeys by mParticle. We have an action-packed agenda, like I mentioned. We'll be getting our CEO perspective from our dear leader, Michael Katz, MK for short, in a bit. Then we'll discuss some of the core customer challenges, which spurred us to release journeys, demo some use cases, and get a sneak peek into our vision and how we're thinking about our roadmap for the year. So first, some introductions. Rochelle Shahada, why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Thanks, Jonathan. Hi, everyone. I am Rochelle, Director of Product Management here at mParticle, and I am leading data-driven personalization area. So super excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm Jonathan Senin, Product Marketing Manager, working very closely with Rochelle on personalization products. I no longer have that haircut. I've had to change it up for mParticle. Last but not least, MK, introduce yourself, please.
Hey everybody. Apologies, I'm in London. I have a stable internet connection. Thank you for joining, and excited to dive in today.
Awesome. Cool. Before we dive into some of the feature highlights and stuff, what I want to do next is to showcase and quickly summarize what the Journey offering is. Journeys by mParticle is a suite of capabilities. Our aim is to help digital brands optimize each step in the customer journey with journey analysis, testing, and orchestration combined into a single workflow. It's our next-gen approach to ensure customers' experience with the brand across a range of touch points, devices, and channels is both personalized and brand consistent, all while maximizing business impact, right? Journeys by mParticle is a multi-pronged product offering, and we're starting off with Journey Builder. Journey Builder is the visual interface to orchestrate customer experiences across channels and touch points. It's a totally new offering from mParticle, giving non-technical users the ability to build and orchestrate control cross-channel experiences with no code. Journey Builder is in closed beta today, and customers can apply for access. And that's awesome. Okay, that's a quick summary of journeys to get some high-level context into what MK and I are going to speak about today. I really wanted to bring MK on since obviously he has some interesting perspectives as CEO. But I think what's more interesting is that MK has seen the CDP landscape shift and change over the years. He's been on this roller coaster from the very beginning. So he'll have some great context into how journeys fits into the broader kind of CDP landscape. So MK, thank you again so much for joining. We'll deal with this delay as much as we can. Here's an easy first softball question. Why are you so excited about journeys?
Yeah. And can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I may just check in periodically from time to time because again, my connection's unstable. So thank you for bearing with me. I'm super excited because ultimately Journeys picks up where Audiences leaves off, right? Audiences is a really powerful product that allows our customers to be able to ultimately separate signal from noise within the mParticle platform, and then use the connections that we have to drive better, more efficient, highly scalable engagement. And that's all well and good, and I think there's a ton of value that our customers have got out of the 2015 or so. One of the limitations of the audience product, though, has been that you can't sequence how audiences are constructed. Order of when events happen is a really important aspect of whether you should qualify to be included into a segment or into a cohort. And so I think that one of the most exciting things to me is that if you think about audiences as kind of this two-dimensional product, I think Journeys makes it three-dimensional.
That's a great answer. I want to dive in a little bit more into sort of the sequential nature of delivering experiences, which sort of turns 2D chess into 3D chess, as you say. What's to you, what's so special about giving brands the ability to deliver sort of and control the sequential nature of experiences? Like, there's something special there. Like, what do you think that's like is really particularly exciting about like being able to control the sequence of experiences?
Yeah, well, order of operations matters,
Yeah.
right? I think we learned that back in elementary school. Yeah, so it's important that we think about sequencing from the perspective of the customer experience. In what order a story is told ultimately dictates the outcome, right? Like if you're telling a story or you're telling a joke, oftentimes you don't insert the punchline like halfway through, the joke is ruined, right? So there's a buildup. And I think much like journeys, ultimately what's happening now is that it allows brands to create that buildup to ultimately deliver the optimal customer experience.
Totally. Great answer. Yeah, totally agree.
Thanks.
I think like from your perspective as someone who's been on the CDP roller coaster for a while, you know, it may or may not be surprising that mParticle released like a journeys product that's like, you know, focused on non-technical users. It's focused on, you know, orchestration of personalized experiences. From your perspective, like, why does it make sense for a CDP like mParticle that does focus on customer data infrastructure specifically, right? Why does it make sense for us, for mParticle as a company, you know, to release a product like Journeys?
So the buildup from where we've been focused on primarily around data quality, data governance, and connectivity, like ultimately you have to find truth in your data first, and that's really all about data quality and integrity and making sure that what you think you know about your customer is actually true in nature. So truth before meaning. Meaning is about contextualizing the data, understanding like the why behind the what, and certainly with the addition of indicative, and as that product becomes more natively integrated into the platform, plus things like calculated attributes and eventually doing like user scoring, we can provide more meaning to the data. And then you need meaning before you can create connection. And connection is about streaming events, building audiences, orchestrating journeys. And so you want to be able to meet the customer wherever they are, with as high degree of confidence as you possibly can that you're delivering the right experience to the right channel at the right time. And so going back to what I was talking about before, this is kind of a much needed, critical, and logical evolution in how we think about empowering our customers to deliver the right experiences to their customers.
Totally. I love it. Yeah. Context is king, and Journeys is not a side step, but like you said, a logical next step that rests on a foundation of data quality and real-time connections and all that good stuff. I think zooming out a bit, a lot of brands today, I think there's general market uncertainty, and a lot of let's say consternation about where the market might head. Just a lot of like, you know, the future is unclear. Journeys, you know, can't solve every problem. You know, I wish it could, but it's not a silver bullet. But I will say that, like, you know, Journeys, we really like, our vision is that Journeys will help brands deliver amazing customer experiences. What would you say to companies out there who are looking to get an edge today with Journeys, or just also like looking to get an edge, do more with less in a generally like uncertain time where resources might be strapped, right? Like how should brands think about Journey in the sort of like uncertain market context?
Yeah, you know, you brought up a couple of really important points, which is that one, there are no silver bullets, right? So like we can focus on journeys and we can focus on creating connection, but if that's not also tightly coupled with the ability to protect data quality and instantiate data governance, it's also not going to be as powerful, right? So it's about having the end-to-end capabilities to ultimately deliver the outcomes that our customers expect from us, and certainly their customers expect from them. And then, secondly, it is about doing more with less. I think, necessity is kind of the mother of all invention, and so much innovation comes from companies needing to think differently, and operate more efficiently. And so, you look at some of the great companies that have been created over the course of the past decade or two, and they're usually actually created in times of great uncertainty, right? And so, like, the way I think about doing more with less, like, it starts with, like, where can you create leverage? Well, what better place to start than with your data, and more specifically your customer data, as I think is kind of widely considered as, like, the most valuable part of your entire kind of data asset. And so, like, the way I think about it is there's again a buildup. You go from data to information to knowledge to wisdom, right? And in doing so, like, creating that really important loop, in terms of how you engage your customers, where you engage, understanding the why behind all of it.
Cool. I think we lost you a little bit towards the end, MK, but that's okay. I think we got the gist of your answer. So thank you so much. All right, cool. Rochelle, are you ready to press on? Let's go. Okay, so what I want to do next is talk about some of the challenges, right? That Journey Builder was meant to address. The first, and I would say foremost, challenge is that customer journeys continue to be cross-device and cross-channel with no signs of stopping. It's no surprise to any of you who use mobile phones and tablets and multiple devices, but I think what's interesting is that for however much we think that, like, we reached the end of history with new touch points and devices, new ones pop up every day that continue to surprise us, right? Nobody thought TikTok would challenge Meta's social media dominance, yet here we are. TikTok is projected to rake in $5.9 billion in advertising revenue in 2022. Thank goodness mParticle has a connection, an integration with TikTok, right? Even for old channels, quote unquote, like paid media, there's a complex mix of new and old touch points, like connected TV, Xbox, iPads, and of course desktop, right? So all these touch points are relevant because they make up key steps in the customer journey. Specifically, it takes 6 steps to convert a customer, right? According to a study of 2,000 e-commerce consumers, it took at least 6 touch points to convert a prospect into a first-time purchaser, right? For those listening in, for those who have more complex journeys, you might know that it may take more than 6 touch points, right? But at the very least, it's multiple touch points to convert a customer. Yet, customer expectations remain really high. 90% of customers expect a consistent experience across channels, right? So even though a brand is, like, multi-channel, right, as in they exist on multiple channels, right, it's not enough. The customers expect a consistent experience across all the channels that a brand is on. And I think the fundamental proposition that we're positing is this, that the obstacles to consistent, unified, and optimized kind of cross-channel journeys are fundamentally organizational problems at the end of the day, right? Specifically, there are team, data, and process silos. Rochelle and I have had the benefits of talking to some of the early beta participants on journeys, and what we've observed is that each of these teams, whether it's marketing, product management, growth, whatever, what have you, actually manage their own journey. So marketing teams have a super robust automation flow for managing email or push notifications, right? For welcome series. Product management teams build out personalized onboarding journeys, creating experiences to drive feature adoption and usage, right? Yeah, there's often little technical connection amongst these experiences. Receiving an experience in one channel doesn't trigger or suppress data activation in another channel, right? From a process perspective, what we've also observed is that teams do plan customer journeys with their departmental colleagues, but this happens in tools like Miro or on a whiteboard, and this lacks, obviously, the data-driven context. So specifically, teams lack insight into how delivering an experience at one touch point has trickled down effects on other touch points. Experience delivery, whether it's like a push notification or a homepage layout A/B test, is like an intervention, right? Of course, teams look at the impact of the intervention on the main goal, right? Hey, like, did this email, drive more purchases? But it's really hard to see the holistic impact on subsequent touch points, right? Did it drive purchases? Did it drive repeat visits, retention, etc.? So without a lack of trying, teams resort to managing what they can control and observe and report, right? Not their fault. It's just like the way that the world works, right? Unfortunately, this results in a fragmented experience for customers. Some touch points are really personalized, some really generic. It feels like one day a brand really knows me, but the next day they don't. Or worse, it feels like they confuse me with like someone else who I'm not, right? So ultimately, this results in a fragmented, inconsistent, suboptimal experience. So in light of these challenges, I really want to highlight that our Journeys offering is the holistic solution, to set challenges. Instead of offering a piecemeal solution that would exacerbate data and process silos, our vision is an entirely new workflow that helps brands continuously optimize cross-channel journeys. And our mental model, like how we envision this, is best captured by a test, learn, repeat loop. Here's our loop, right? We start at the top, observe and discover, right? Brands can analyze existing journeys and find key touch points where users drop off and can be nudged back onto the path to conversion. What I really love about Indicative, which Rochelle will show you later, which currently powers our journey analytics, is finding alternate yet equally successful paths to conversion. Really cool. Having identified a problem area to address, like a drop-off area, a new path to nudge customers on, brands can then form a hypothesis about the right mix of engagements to deliver to customers, right? Using Journey Builder, they can both orchestrate this cross-channel engagement and include A/B or MVP, multivariate tests to validate their hypothesis, right? After delivering the actual experience, brands can then analyze the results, learning about an intervention impact on the main goal and subsequent journey steps. This linear and sequential analysis yields new discoveries and learning, which powers more hypotheses to test and engage, so on and so forth. And so the loop continues, right? This loop, though, isn't like revolutionary. We know it's common practice for it's for testing and A/B testing, experts, personalization practitioners. But what's new is going through this process for a series of touch points, right? Going through this loop for an entire customer journey, and that's sort of like the new offering that Journey brings to the table. So our test, learn, repeat loop needs some way to actually control the experiences, to orchestrate the experiences, right? That customers receive across channels. So we've started this kind of Journeys offering with the core, right? The core foundation, which is Journey Builder, which is the visual method, right, to orchestrate experiences, right? This is what's new. This is what's in closed beta today. Journey Builder, the visual interface. Journey Builder incorporates two key components, which I really want to highlight. First is milestones. These are key steps in a journey as defined by event or user data, right? Every journey has a series of important steps, like a site visit, viewing a product, adding to cart, etc. And mParticle users can define these steps within the Journey Builder UI. The event and user data available within Journey Builder leverages the data sources that a brand has set up within mParticle, right? Like MK said earlier, right? Journey Builder rests on mParticle foundation and core strengths, right? So we excel in cross-channel data collection, identity resolution, data quality, such that a brand can accurately map cross-channel behavior and user data into a milestone, right? So it all fits together. Each milestone outputs, quote unquote, a real-time audience. Because each milestone creates a real-time audience, mParticle users can connect an audience to one of 75 plus audience partners using the same connections flow that mParticle customers use today. By connecting an audience to a partner, we're sending a customer cohort to that partner who will ultimately deliver the last mile engagement. So a combination of integrations and milestones is how mParticle is actually orchestrating experiences. Customers who reach milestones, like this example, add to cart, will be sent, quote unquote, to an engagement partner who will, of course, deliver the last mile experience, right? So by ordering the sequence of milestones, and in the future, by controlling how a journey splits, flows and ends, and by selecting the partners to engage customers with, brands have ultimate control over the kinds of experiences customers receive, right? And brands will have even more control how a journey starts, splits, flows, and ends with what we call path controls. Here we see an example of a journey that splits based on a customer's lifetime value, but Rochelle will speak more about this later. Okay, enough slides. Who's ready for a demo? Let's go. I want to see Journey Builder in action. Let's go. Here we go. I want to focus on a seemingly simple use case, cart abandonment, right? Today, there's tons of methods to solve cart abandonment, from retargeting to email, but bringing it back to our core problem, these experiences aren't connected. So let's take a look at how that might look differently in Journey Builder, right? In this use case example, let's pretend I'm a traditional e-commerce retailer. I want to get customers who abandon their cart to return and convert. So we're here in the mParticle platform. We're here in the journeys section, and we're starting with somewhat of a blank canvas. My starting step here is actually my data sources. So what you see here is all the data inputs that are available to me to define my milestones. So what we're going to do first is pare down this whole universe of data that's available to me and define my first milestone using data. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to add a milestone. Like I said earlier, there's user data available to build milestones. So I'm going to actually define my first milestone with user data and exclude customers who are not on a subscription plan. So I'm picking a user attribute here. Subscription type does not contain active. Okay. So as you can see, this milestone builder looks very much exactly like our real-time audience builder. Okay, so that will create an audience. Give it 1 second while it loads. Et voila, there is our first milestone and our first audience. Okay, time to create my next milestone. This time I'll target the actual cart abandoners here. So what I've done is exclude people who are not on the active subscription type, and I'm gonna next target customers who have abandoned their cart abandoners. And we're gonna pick e-commerce data and cart level, cart abandonments, abandoned carts, but not purchased within 10 days. As you can see here, as we add milestones and subsequent milestones, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, this audience is actually a subset of the previous audience, right? Because essentially what I've done is build an audience of folks who are not on an active subscription and who have abandoned their cart, right? So just calling that out, that these are sub-audiences of each other. Okay, great. I've made my second milestone of cart abandoners, and now it's time to connect it to an audience partner. In this case, let's connect it to Facebook because I want to target these cart abandoners with Facebook ads. So I'm going to click connect to output, which opens up a modal, which shows all of our beautiful audience partners and integrations. And we're going to pick Facebook, and we're going to connect the right configuration. And as you can see, the workflow is exactly the same as connecting an audience partner today. I'm going to quickly refresh. Okay, great. So we are engaging customers who reach this specific milestone, right? Who have abandoned their cart with Facebook ads. But as an e-commerce retailer, I know that this won't capture everyone who's abandoned their cart, right? Some will come back to the site via the Facebook ad and still won't convert. Some customers will, click through the ad and not buy. So I want to use that return visit as an opportunity to deliver another experience. So we're going to add another milestone. Return to site, but not purchase. Okay, let's see here. What do I want to do? How do I target this? I'm going to pick events, and I'm going to target the sign-in event greater than 0 events within the last 30 days. And I'm going to add, I've captured the return visit, and I'm going to exclude folks who did not purchase greater than less than 1 event within the last 3 days. I think what you see I've done here is I've actually added 2 sets of data criteria into this specific milestone. So I can add, as many criteria as I'd like. Okay, so we've created our audience. Here's what I know about the journey so far. Customers have abandoned their cart. I've retargeted them on Facebook. Some customers have come back to the site, signed in, and still haven't purchased. Those pesky customers, we got to turn up the heat and engage them on owned channels. Here we go. Oh, I want to add an output. Okay, because I know that they signed in, I know who they are, I have their email address. Let's engage them on own channels like Braze. Okay, beautiful. We've added our second output. I'm just going to fix this connection because it is a demo environment. Et voila. Okay, so to be super clear, what we're sending an audience of customers who aren't actively subscribed, abandoned their cart, and were engaged on Facebook, returned to the site, and didn't buy to Braze, right? Only when customers have reached this last milestone are sent to Braze via this connection, right? To summarize, what we've done here is engage customers in 2 channels, but we've orchestrated the experience, right? We're only engaging customers via Braze if they've been engaged on Facebook first, and then they return to the site, right? This is the sequential control over experiences that brands now have with Journey Builder, right? This is the sequencing that MK was talking about earlier, right? Since releasing Journey Builder, a common question we received is how to use mParticle's Journey Builder with what is referred to as cross-channel campaign management platforms like Braze, Iterable, eMarsis, Klaviyo. Our response is that Journey Builder and CCMP are complementary, right? And should be used together. Brands can run entire micro or sub journeys within the overall context of the grander customer journey that is being orchestrated within mParticle, right? So in our earlier example, we sent an audience to Braze. Well, brands who use Braze can use audience membership as a starting criteria for a canvas, which is Braze's automation workflow interface, right? Within Braze Canvas, teams can build out a journey composed of email, SMS, push notifications that, again, takes place in the context of the Facebook engagement we delivered earlier, right? Better yet, some audiences partners like Braze have feed integrations with mParticle, which means that brands can use engagement data from a Braze canvas, like, hey, did they open the email? Did they engage with the push notification? Inside Journey Builder as additional milestone criteria, right? So when we talk about technically connecting cross-channel experiences, this is what we mean. Triggering a whole series of Braze messaging, like a Braze journey here, after engaging customers on another channel. And the technical connection between these experiences is Journey Builder, is mParticle. Right? Again, our recommendation is to use both mParticle, Journey Builder, and CCMPs like Braze and Iterable, et cetera. Personally, I feel like this breathes fresh air into critical old channels like email, right? Instead of delivering cart abandonment emails as a single lane strategy, how might brands approach this differently if it happened in the context of 4 prior touch points, right? Using our example, how might a brand change up the content, timing, sequence of emails that push if they knew a customer had already been engaged on Facebook, right? And the teams could work together and know what the Facebook ad said and what the content, what the colors were, right? And in other examples, right, how might an on-site or in-app experience change for a customer who you actually were able to win back with an aggressive series of couponing and SMS, right? This is the new approach that I'm so excited we're enabling with journeys. In that vein, with this new approach, I'm going to pass it off to Rochelle. I've been talking for quite a while now. So Rochelle, is going to talk about our loop, right? We're going to bring it back to our loop, test, learn, repeat, which informs our vision and our roadmap. And that's what Rochelle is here to talk about today. How you doing, Rochelle?
Awesome. This is great. I want to say that we do have a Q&A at the end. So be sure to post your question as they come up, and we'll address them right at the end. Okay, so what Jonathan just showed is really what's available today. And we have several customers on it. Next slide, please, Jonathan. What I want to show you is really the fast successions of updates that we will be doing over the next quarter. And really the upcoming iterations and the roadmap, they're all grouped into themes that incrementally improves on that single outcome. And each of those kind of use cases that MK and Jonathan spoke about. So a brief preview into what those milestones look like is, one, we want to enable easier and faster experimentation, right? So the idea is you start with a hypothesis, but you quickly want to iterate and experiment on that to get closer to the KPI you're measuring against. So that means doing easier testing such as ABN, MVT testings right inside journeys. We want to map out simple to complex customer journeys. So to really mimic that real world customer behavior and meet them where they are. They don't go down a single line. And they don't necessarily do the milestone that you expect them to do, and you want to maybe split them. So you really want to mimic that complex real world behavior that your users generally take when they engage with your brand. We want to allow brands to operate at scale, building faster in a cost efficient way. Building faster really allows you to deliver that on-time, sensitive experience, and cost efficiency breaks down all the limitations that you have to think about to enable you to really create magnitudes more customer experiences. And then finally, that loop, to really get to data-driven decision-making. A common workflow that teams go through is go from data access to analysis to activation. First, you have to analyze the data to gain insights into how to best engage with your customers. And then based on that, it feeds on your engagement and activation plan to form some sort of marketing campaigns and personalization. Then you need to understand that effectiveness of that engagement efforts to further inform your original activation strategy, and rinse and repeat. And that's that loop that Jonathan detailed earlier. And really behind all that, enabling that loop, there's a suite of tools that marketers typically use to enable that cycle of hypotheses, execute, and learn. And we want to close that loop. We want to bring all those separate tools and teams together to really engage with their customer for their customer rather than the channel and the tool. So it's best to kind of see the vision and the roadmap in the form of an illustration. So let me take you through a scenario. So first, I'm going to start with the goal, right? You typically start with the goal, and here the goal is I want to increase subscription. This is where you use your favorite analytical tools to kind of like do that deep data-informed analysis. Here, I'm showing indicative. But it could really be any product analytics tool that's kind of that you currently use. So you first want to understand your customers, understand the feature engagement for the users who have already subscribed. What are their personas, conversion rate? What are the common paths that lead them to subscribe? Where do they typically fall off? And there's a bunch of questions that you keep asking and peeling off the layers of the onion to really get closer to the goal of subscription and to formulate your hypotheses. Right. From there, you could start making correlations, data trends to inform your engagement strategy and benchmark against that initial performance. So in this example, what you see here is that the majority of users who have subscribed essentially downloaded the app prior to subscribing. So this is where I start to formulate the hypothesis of how, where, and when to engage with my users to drive them towards that initial goal of subscribing. So using this data analysis example, my first campaign iteration could be something like, hey, I want to target my non-subscribers to download the app. And by doing that, my hypothesis is it will drive them towards the next step of subscribing. Okay, so I'm ready now to create a customer experience. Let's act on this hypothesis and then start executing and activating on it. So this is where I'm going to start sending this data over to mParticle journeys to begin the data activation. So here, you see a simple journey, right? It's definitely not as complicated as what Jonathan showed, but this could be a good place where you start. You have a subscription journey that's been informed through that previous step of data analysis. So every journey, every campaign needs more a holistic approach, and it needs to be goal oriented. So this journey has an outcome, and I'm tracking against that outcome, subscription conversion. And everything that I'm going to do within that journey and how I engage with my customers will really be to drive and move the needle towards that goal. How do I get more customers to subscribe? From there, it's a simple sequence of mini steps or mini goals or milestones that eventually lead to that final outcome. So in this example, what I have here are 3 milestones. It first starts with non-subscribers. Then I want to get them to download an app, and then finally subscribe. And so my first activation point you see here is really based on that original hypothesis of if I engage with my non-subscribers via an email channel to get them to download the app. So I'm going to do that and activate on that integration. And then this is where I want to start measuring the performance of that email campaign and assess if it actually increased the subscription conversion and analyze deeper of how and why. Okay, so next, like I said, it's a pretty simple slide. And from there, I want to do a series of fast experimentations and journey iterations to further refine that customer experience. So by adding additional steps that I've learned increases conversions. So here, in this example, what you see is I've noticed that users who have been customers for a long period of time have an increased likelihood of subscribing. So I've added them to further refine and hone in on my journey. And then I want to split how I engage with different cohorts of customers based on how they've interacted with the brands and different engagement tierings and spending tiering, high, medium, and low, and treat them and engage with them differently. So then after that, I want to run a few experimentations, right, to test different channels, creatives, or even journey stages altogether. The goal here is no 2 customers are alike, and the journey path that they take differs. You want to start to mimic that real world experience as closely as possible to the customer to get closer to that individualized experience. It's a very iterative process, and it requires faster experimentation, simple to complex journey mapping, and a breakdown of any limitations such as limited access to data, limited number of times you can engage, or breaking down the data silos with the teams. This is where you see the next set of roadmap items focused on. It's really focused on those key areas to help you achieve these goals. Then finally, to really make this activation, experimentations, and iterations truly data informed, you'll want to continuously measure performance of each campaign and each engagement and analyze user segments throughout the entire process to further refine your goal and your engagement strategy. So let's go back and reorient ourselves. Our initial original journey outcome was to increase subscription. At this point in the iterative cycle, I may have refined it to a goal that says, well, let's increase subscription by 20% over the next 30 days. So I use both this iterative cycle and this informed constant data analysis to help refine that goal to something that is measurable. So back to the example. Here, this is where I want to compare the conversion rate of those who downloaded the app from using the email channel against those who didn't. Was that original hypothesis correct? If not, let's form and update the hypothesis or further refine it. As you can see here, I could quickly see how well my journey is performance from milestone to milestone, all the way to the journey goal to drive subscription. You, of course, want to analyze this further and further to understand the cohort of users and what did and did not learn to conversion. And that's where you could kind of see this bi-directional integration, where you can start to share these segments down to your favorite product analytics tool to see and perform that deep analysis to further inform your data activation strategy. I'm really excited about Journeys in both its current form and also the upcoming roadmap and long-term vision. I'm excited to work closely with our customers to understand the needs, iterate through their use cases, and unlock new use cases. Thanks for listening, everyone. Over to you, Jonathan.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rochelle. That was so awesome. So cool. That was awesome. Thank you so much. All right, now we're going to start with some Q&A. If you have some questions, please include them in the Zoom webinar, and we'll be sure to answer them. As we wait for questions to pile in, I just want to summarize what Rochelle just showed. Like, maybe my level of enthusiasm is much higher, so I can get much more stoked on what she just showed. But we're talking about a seamless integration between analytics, right, and journey building, right? We can in the mock-ups that Rochelle showed from the journey builder interface, you can click into a specific part of the journey and analyze it with leading journey analytics tools like Indicative, right? And send parts of a journey that you see in Indicative into Journey Builder so you can very quickly orchestrate the experiences right then and there. So this is the seamless workflow that we're talking about between test, learn, and iterate. So super excited. Thank you for sharing, Rochelle. I think our first question here is from Sherry. How do you capture customers who return to site? Is that via a website pixel? Sherry, good question. Customers, mParticle customers who use mParticle benefit from the rest of the mParticle foundation, which typically means that they've established and implemented mParticle from the outset, which includes cross-channel data collection, data streaming, which means that mParticle is ingesting a wide variety of events from all the channels, including a site visit or a cart abandonment, right? So that's typically done in the implementation phase of mParticle. That data then becomes available to marketers, whether using real-time audiences, or journeys. So that's part and parcel of the mParticle offering is cross-channel data collection. Anna asks, where do we set the campaigns up? Well, if you have beta access and if you're a customer, you set the campaigns up in Journey Builder, which is currently part of the audiences offering. And that's where you set your campaigns up. But again, to be really clear, Journey Builder is the really high level orchestration, right? We're orchestrating experiences across channels like Facebook or Braze, right? We're sending an audience of customers, customers who reach a specific milestone, like subscribed or not subscribed or abandoned the cart, to Braze, right? And then Braze is where you actually set up the actual last mile campaign, right? That's where you set up the series of emails. That's where you actually write up the email content. Braze is the one who's actually sending the emails, right? So to be clear, you set up a high-level orchestration in mParticle. The campaign execution you deliver in Braze. Anonymous attendee asks, what is the price or cost of journeys? Will it be included within mParticle? Good question. Journeys leverages mParticle's real-time audience, real-time audiences product, which is a premium feature. But if you purchase real-time audiences, then journeys will be included. So that's the high-level kind of pricing model. You got to get real-time audiences, and then journeys will be included. Okay, I think we are at time. We are at 8:45 PST. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. If you have more questions, please go to our website, mParticle.com. Submit a form to speak with us, and we'll be more than happy to answer more of your questions and to show you more of the mParticle platform. Thank you so much for joining. Have a great day. And remember, we're on a journey of journeys. Thank you so much, everyone.